Good evening, Prague. Good morning, California, and a great day to you, everyone else in different time zones around the world. You've just tuned into Creator Stories, a cinnamon show where we interview creators in various stages of their careers to find out what it's like to be a creator, what the journey to becoming a content creator is like, and maybe give some pointers to all of you crazy kids out there thinking this might be the profession for you. My guest today is Marc Rosenzweig, co-founder of Suspenders, the longest running troupe at the University of Southern California, a member of Trifecta Comedy, a channel available both on Cinnamon and YouTube, and a member of Zephyr Entertainment. Welcome to the show, Marc. How's it hanging?
Thank you. It's hanging pretty good. Good to be talking to you face to face, virtually.
Yeah, it's wonderful. What 2020 has brought to social interactions is one of the greatest in history of mankind, I would say. Well,
Yeah.
we like to start a show with a bit of an icebreaker, and my icebreaker for you today is Friends, the TV show. Is it still funny?
Yeah, it is. It is still funny. I actually did a binge watch of it a couple years ago, going back through Netflix and watching it all because I always like to have a little half-hour comedy show I can put on before going to bed that I don't need to, be too focused on, and it's just enjoyable to put on while you're falling asleep. So yeah, it's still funny. It's still enjoyable, I'd
Okay.
say.
Okay, well, on a personal preference, then there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Mark thinks Friends are still funny, so Friends is still funny. So if you think otherwise, whatever.
If you think
Uh,
otherwise, that's fine. Yeah.
no, so sorry. There's a little. So the backstory behind this is that I used to love Friends. I grew up with Friends. I had a mug with Friends. I used to make Friends jokes, and then my current partner Anna told me that every man in Friends is a creep, and I was like, no, they're not. And then I like thought about it, and they are.
Yeah. See, that's a different question though than is it still funny? Because yeah, going back and watching some of it definitely is like, all right, I don't know about all this,
Yeah,
but
Ross,
yeah, you can
dude.
still put it on and enjoy
Oh
parts of it
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it kind of reflects the era that it was produced in, I would suppose. That said, Mark, for those people who are listening out there who have never heard about you, don't know much about you, can you give us a little bit about a backstory? Like, how did you end up like uni? Like how where do you come from? Who are
Sure,
you?
yeah. Well, that was a great introduction. Thank you. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I went to USC. I moved to LA for college, and at USC, I studied theater and film. And I've always loved comedy and doing comedy. And a friend of mine at USC came to me and said, there's a lot of improv troops here, but there are no sketch comedy troops. And I was taking the sketch comedy class at the time at USC, taught by Rob Adler. And I love doing sketch and, grew up watching In Living Color and a huge fan of that show. And of course, grew up watching SNL and loved it. And so when that opportunity was brought to me to start that troupe, I was happy to do it. And we started up the Suspenders, which you mentioned. And very happily, that sketch comedy troupe is still going to this day. Usually they perform a different live sketch show at USC each semester, which was a tradition we started. But now that there's no live theater and live shows, they're doing virtual sketches and focusing on the more digital landscape, which is really cool. So that's the Suspenders. And then after graduating, I wanted to continue working in sketch comedy. And a lot of people ask me, what are you going to keep doing in comedy? I want to be a part of it. So I basically took that opportunity to start Trifecta Comedy, which does have a channel on Cinnamon, as you mentioned. And we're a multi-platform sketch comedy troupe. We have sketches and collaborations that we've done that have over 1 million views on YouTube. We've done a ton of live shows in Hollywood. That was one of our favorite things to do. So we could, enjoy having our friends and family and our small group, but loyal group of fans come in and watch our shows and laugh with them and enjoy that with them. But now that we're not able to do that as much, we as well have pivoted in this virtual era and we're more focused on the digital content. We're actually filming a very minimal cast and crew shoot tomorrow, doing a COVID safe set. It's literally going to be 3 people on set. So that's what you got to do nowadays. But yeah, so that's sort of me on the sketch comedy side of things and the comedy side of things. And at USC, I also launched a production company while I was there, called Zephyr Entertainment, and we've been producing content together for 7 years now. We have a short film on Dust that is screening virtually right now at Holly Shorts Film Festival and screened last week at Raindance Film Festival. We have done, short content in all sorts of genres and spaces. We had a short film that was at Slam Dance a few years ago, and we're looking to break into the feature film space right now. So we've been very focused the last few years internally developing a slate of feature films, and we're looking to break into the low budget horror space. So that's me.
That's a really impressive portfolio. I have quite a lot of like sort of follow-ups that I would like to
Sure.
sort of ask from what you just said. First of all, sketch comedy. So people who are listening to this, they might not know what sketch comedy is. Could you maybe give us a little bit of an intro into like what sketch comedy, how does it differ from anything else? Like,
Yeah, sure. That's a really great point because a lot of people, when I would invite them to suspender shows and then, later on doing Trifecta and inviting people to Trifecta shows, they would say, "Oh, that's great," and they would see it's comedy and they say, "Is it an improv show?" And it's not. Sketch comedy is different. And I think there's some confusion and there is some overlap because a lot of sketch comedy troupes, including ourselves, will use improv exercises and improv drills, so to speak, to sort of mine for characters and get some good ideas that could work in the sketch format. So there is some overlap. And within some of our shows, night to night they'll differ and someone will have some fun with a character and will improv a little extra bit. But the way sketch comedy differs is sketch is written. It's not, two suggestions from the audience coming in and those are going to be, where these characters are and what they're doing, and now you see two actors improvise that live. That's not really what sketch is. um Sketch, it can be character based, it can be game based. And what I mean by a game is there's a funny thing, and that funny thing is just played on over and over again and expanded on and built over and over again. But yeah, it's the sketch comedy, it's a written form. And it's all of these variety comedy shows that you've seen that I was mentioning in Living Color, SNL, Mr. Show, all of these and you see it a lot too, on YouTube, and a lot of these little skits that you're seeing on YouTube, that's sketch comedy. Those are sketches.
okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was, so I really asked for my sake, but I think for the audience sake as well. Another thing that you did mention is, and this is something that's not actually available on Cinnamon, and that's Zephyr Production.
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
like to ask you about that as well. So, tell us more about that. So, is it mainly about? It's not. Is it mainly serious? Is it a bit more sort of serious undertone, or is it not like comedy? As it
So
is?
I'll say basically we're a collective of filmmakers. We all met at USC. We're all writer, director, producers. And as you know, I love comedy and I have a background in sketch comedy. And a lot of the other creators in our network and in our company love comedy. And we've done a lot of comedy. We have some web series that are comedy, but Zephyr is very much a full service production company. We write, we develop, we
Yeah.
produce. People come to us, whether it's a commercial production. We've shot stuff for the county before, we've shot stuff for HBO before. Basically, we're a full service production company and we do everything and anything. And we also have a full post production house as well. So we have done a lot of drama stuff because just like how we like comedy, we also really like genre films. So a lot of our bigger short productions have been in the thriller space or the sci-fi space or the horror space because
Mm.
we're all big fans of that too. And as far as our feature slate, our feature film slate that we're working on, and that's what we're really focused on right now, is getting some of those projects packaged and going and looking to shoot some stuff in late 2021. But basically with those features, those are all very focused in the horror sci-fi thriller space, but I will say a couple of our projects in there, including one that I wrote, is a genre mashup, and it's a horror comedy. Which is very popular. I think Freaky just came out today, and it's something you see Blumhouse doing. And comedy and laughs have always have their place in the horror genre. So we're very interested in genre mashups as well. So I wouldn't say Zephyr's only serious, because that's not true.
Mm.
But we are fans of a lot of different genres, and we do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. So you've mentioned quite a lot of times actually that you guys are a fan of horror movies. So what's your favorite, like either horror movie or maybe like era of horror movies? Are you more like the sort of
Like the 70s, yeah, the 70s of horror, and like 80s even. So like, I love Rosemary's Baby. I love Evil Dead. Like I love all that stuff. So yeah, and then I also think we're having a great moment in horror right now too. And I think you're seeing a lot of the same stuff that was happening in the 70s, where people were taking these very high concept ideas in movies, and thematically very important stories, and putting them in the horror genre. And you're seeing that happening right now too, and I think it's really a cool time.
just for the sake of conversation, would you give us an example of a horror movie you've enjoyed in the last 5-6 years?
I mean, Get Out, right? And then
Yeah.
also like what HBO's doing right now with Lovecraft. Like, I'm a
Mm.
huge fan of Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome to
yeah,
the
right.
Lovecraft bitch,
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Cosmic
exactly.
horror,
And
bro.
yeah, cosmic horror, right? Yeah, and I'm totally into that kind of stuff. And I think like what they're doing with all of that, and that stuff that I already love, and then also adding, a whole social and political conversation on top of that stuff that we're
Yeah.
already very into. I think it's a really cool moment.
No, I agree. So for those of you who are listening who've never heard of H.P. Lovecraft, he is the pioneer of cosmic horror, of entities beyond your imagination and your understanding, like trying to influence
Yes,
you, a mere mortal. And it's a very difficult genre of horror, in my opinion. It's extremely difficult to translate into film, especially like now maybe we're reaching that point of like sort of CGI and everything where you can like really encompass it. But yeah, that's dude, I respect you for
sure.
that so much more, man.
Well,
Whoa, you just blow my
well,
mind.
thanks. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, just to echo what you were just saying about how Lovecraft is an interesting thing to approach with film and TV, right? Because film and TV is all about getting to see everything. And now,
Yeah.
unlike the theater, right? In the theater, you're okay with a play and just seeing two actors and they're talking about
Mm.
all these things that have happened. But in film and TV, we expect to get to see it. And
Yeah.
as you know, almost all of Lovecraft's stories end with, and it was so horrific, I
Yeah.
can't even begin to describe it. And it's like,
Exactly.
end of story. It's like you didn't get to see any of it. You just got to know it was so terrible it can't even be described.
No, it's that
Um,
it's the written part where you use your is that part where you use your imagination, and it's like,
yeah.
dude, you're the first person who I've met who I'm vibing about this with, so I'm like literally chills.
Well, that's cool. Well, I'll say it, Zephyr, we're big fans of Lovecraft, and we're big fans of the 70s and 80s horror revolution and all the films that were made then, and big fans of what's happening now too, and well, stuff that Blumhouse is doing and all that. It's really cool. And it's a tough time to be a creator, and especially a
Mm,
creator who's trying to be a first time feature filmmaker.
yeah,
It's not easy with COVID and everything, because everyone's aware of it and wary of it.
yeah,
Um, but I'll also say, having said all that, it's also an exciting time, and there is an
mm,
opportunity. And there was a huge demand for content before all of this happened, and now that people have not been able to be in production for most of this year, there that that opportunity is just continuing to grow, and people want to hear stories and they want to see these things. And there's just more and more of these streaming platforms that demand this content and need this stuff for their
Yeah.
subscribers. So it's a tough time, but also a really exciting time. And there is a unique opportunity.
I was going to ask you for your utilitarian perspective on COVID from
Mhm.
as you as a content creator. Is it if you were to balance it, is it
Yep.
did you have more opportunities or did you lose more opportunities? Was it like
I
obviously
mean,
besides the tragedy and everything that happens with it, and you know,
yeah,
I thoughts and prayers to everyone else, but in reality, like if you were to wait, is it more positive? Did you get more or did you lose more?
we lost more.
Yeah.
But everyone did, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone lost something and lost some opportunity, you know. We had 3 productions in late March and April that were the everything was going, the locations were booked, cast and
Yeah.
crew locked, happening, and the lockdown orders came in, and you know all of that got canceled and scrapped. And we, you know, we basically have been developing this slate of feature films at Zephyr, like I told you, for the past few
Mm.
years. And we took this opportunity, this lull in production, to say, hey, we're just gonna double down and focus on development, and you know, really be working on all these scripts internally and getting these pitch materials together so we can bring these out to the market. And just last week, we attended AFM, American Film Market, and they hosted a virtual film market, which was super successful. And they did an amazing job with it. And we were basically able to network like this, you know, the 2020 face to face, and you know, be able to meet different execs and meet with different companies and talk to them about what we're trying to do. And everyone, you know, was disappointed that, oh, we're not all in Santa Monica this year, you know, like we usually are with AFM, getting drinks and being together. But at the same time, everyone recognized that there was a unique benefit to this, of everyone from many different countries and places being able to just tune in for this, log in. A lot of people who may not have had the time or the money to be able to attend if it was in person were able to log in and take advantage of it. So there are definitely some benefits in all of this, you know, enhanced virtual communication and networking, you know. And I think a lot of people are trying to make the best of it and the most of it. But as far as like, is it better or worse? I think, you know, we all
Mm.
know it's worse for everyone,
Yeah.
and everyone's lost opportunities, you know. Like I have a nephew who's a senior in high school, and it's like, you know, I can't imagine being a senior in high school right now, and
No, dude.
you know,
Same.
attending school virtually and all of that. Like, it's tough for everyone, and everyone has a unique way in which it's been hard for them.
Mm.
um but I think, you know, we're seeing it, like you're doing it right now with this podcast, right? Like we're all trying to make the most of this moment, this very
Yeah.
tough moment. And as creators and as a producer, you know, unfortunately that's your job, right? As a producer,
Mm.
you're always troubleshooting problems. And COVID is obviously this massive, like all-encompassing problem, but it's another thing as a producer you got to figure out. And it's like, you know, if you want to make stuff and you want to make stuff happen, it's another one of those things you've got to figure out how you're going to make it work.
Yeah, I understand. That was a very complex answer. Thank you for your honesty as well. In that respect. Um, that being said, let's go into something a bit more lighthearted. How about
Yeah, that
that?
sounds good. Yeah, I'm ready to
uh,
be done talking about that stuff.
no, yeah, I mean, COVID. I do apologize, but COVID is a big part of our lives right now, and it just has to be spoken through, especially on a show like this. You know, from a content creator's perspective, because people out there who are listening right now, they're probably starting content creators. They're probably content creators that had their chances. They've lost something. So,
Yeah.
um, what about let's get to the beginning. Tell me about like Marc when he was like when Marc made his first video. What was that all about? Where's this
Oh
video?
man.
What's your first public video? Hit me with the story of
Wow.
that.
Yeah, so I mean, I did theater first. My dad was directing theater, so he would like throw me into whatever he could. So I got a a craving for acting and performing in front of people at a very young age. And I remember making videos with my neighbors at like fourth or fifth grade with one of those like $100 little handheld cameras that would probably looked horrible. Those like, the 2-button camera, like the record, stop, maybe a zoom button. But maybe, I don't even know. But yeah, and we would just basically run around the neighborhood filming ourselves and doing all sorts of stuff. And we had a creek, and we made a video that was like, oh, there's this monster in the creek, and we had no monster or anything to see, but it's just us being stupid running around. But I do remember one night we were like, okay, we're gonna make a horror movie, and we're in fifth grade, right? So we were like, okay, we're just gonna run
Sorry,
around in
just
the
for
middle.
clarification, how old are you in fifth grade in America?
Um, ooh,
So,
11, I think, like
okay,
11
okay.
years old. We're like 11, 10, 11, 12, like that age range.
Thank you.
And yeah, we basically, and this is in Texas, one night we were like, okay, we're gonna ask one of our friends' dads who likes to like do this stuff. He was one of our friends that we would film stuff with, and his dad was like really into us doing that, and would like to help. And we're like, we're gonna have him chase us around the neighborhood and in the middle of the night, and we're gonna film it like a found footage movie.
Okay.
And so we did it, and it was basically us just running around our neighborhood for like an hour in the middle of the night screaming. And the scariest part of the movie, and probably like the only like 2 minutes of good footage from the full hour, was a neighbor, when we're like screaming running past our house, came outside with the shotgun, because it's Texas, and was like, get the hell off my lawn and shut the hell up, and so like that ended the movie, because that was actually terrifying, and we were no longer just like screaming being stupid, but we were actually scared of this guy with a gun. So yeah, I think after that we like stopped running around in the middle of the night trying to film movies, because I remember we told our parents what had happened, and they were very upset that we were going and running in the neighbors' yards. You can't be doing all that in the middle of the night screaming your heads off. But yeah,
Well,
so
well, it's in Texas
not the
apparently.
smartest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the smartest thing to be doing, to be waking up your old neighbors in the middle of the night screaming. But yeah, we I was filming stuff before like we had any idea of what to film or what to be filming. And then basically a little bit after that, around 12 or 13, I started writing with my dad, who was he was a director back in the day. And
Mm.
I wrote my first spec script at 13 for a show in the US. And
Yeah.
it got to the showrunner, and he like wrote me back about how impressed he was a 13-year-old wrote that. And so after doing that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start focusing on writing a lot more. And that was when I really began working on scripts and writing and developing, and then shot my first short film in high school that actually had like a script that I had written and been proud of. And
Mm.
that's when it became a little bit more serious of making short films and actually, developing the concept and working on that, rather than, being a 10-year-old and being like, let's go run around the neighborhood and film at the creek.
I mean, I love that content. I mean, so let's call it the Texas Shotgun Neighbor Massacre. Is that
Yeah,
available anywhere
sure,
online
sure.
or?
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. I think it was awful. I think we just, knowing what I know now, and running a production company and everything,
Mm.
we all know the script's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
The script's the
So,
roadmap for everything else. And so it's like when we were out there just like, making a short film about our dog, or making a short film
yeah.
about the alligator in the creek, it was just like, not, yeah, I don't think those videos have any purpose or belonging in the
Yeah, I
internet.
understand. I don't mind. It's just we like to ask our guests. We like to see if our guests have their first videos available, because people listening to this will be, then maybe this young kid in Texas, hopefully not
Yeah.
running around at the night, By the way,
Yeah.
shout out to neighbors with shotguns.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah. But they're looking for inspiration. It's really good to know, like your first video was great or if it wasn't good. And I think that's a
It
really
wasn't
important
good.
message. Yeah.
Yeah, my first like 30 videos weren't any good, and
Oh,
now my
that's
dog's
wow.
barking. Yeah, but that would be, my advice to the other content creators and producers like myself is
Mm.
make stuff. And I know this is a tough moment and it's hard because you can't go out and film stuff with a bunch of people and do all the things that you could do before COVID, but there still is a lot you can do to improve your craft and to improve your skill. And whether that's sitting down now and writing and developing stuff that you can film once this is all over, or just figuring out what you can do in your apartment and make happen, do it. And write it, shoot it, edit it, make it. And no matter what it is, you'll be getting better. You'll be developing a skill,
I found that
So, yeah.
I found that that's a very consistent. I find that's a very consistent sort of theme with most of the creators we get to interview. Is just do it.
Yeah.
If it sucks, it sucks. But every suck you improve a little bit. So think of it as
Yeah.
leveling in
Well,
Skyrim.
exactly. Yeah, that's a more fun way of thinking of it. And I've done like all sorts of training and classes. I went to USC, I studied theater, I studied film. Studying's amazing. You need to study, you need to learn. There are lots of tools for you to gain, but I really benefit from doing. And I think a lot of other people are like that as well. So learn what you can learn, take all the classes and seminars and training you can get. But also, you need to do it and practice it, and that's a big part of it.
So you just gave some advice, which if people are listening, thank you. I'm sure they're very thankful for those. But you yourself, you are from what I understand, you're a producer. You're an actor as well. I think you have 11 accredited films as an actor on IMDb, sorry, and you have about I think 8 production
Mhm.
roles. So this is sort of a two-part question. First of all, if you just briefly could tell me like what's better, what do you enjoy more? But I'm assuming I know the
Mm,
answer. And the second, more deep one. Actually, let's start with the first one. I'm not gonna push you for two.
cool.
So what is more? What's the
Um,
one?
yeah, so I grew up acting, and that's how I got into theater and film and storytelling and everything. And they're all very fun and very rewarding. But what I will say about acting is not to say it's easy, because it is not easy at all, but um you know when I'm on set acting and I'm watching, and I'm just there as an actor and I'm watching the producers and the director and the AD and all the crew having to do everything they have to do, and knowing what happens on that side of it, I'm always like
Yeah.
very thankful and happy that I'm there that day as an actor and a performer,
Yeah.
and I get to focus on that. And I love doing that. But I'll be honest, like I do have a passion, and I feel a calling to write and direct,
Yeah.
because I do have stories that I want to tell,
Yeah.
and things that I've seen and have stuff to say about. And I think a lot of other actors feel that way too, and that's why they get into producing and writing and directing, for that very same reason. But
Yeah.
um I mean, like you've seen Trifecta stuff and our comedy stuff, and like getting to go be big and silly, and do a sketch show where the very first sketch, I'm only on stage in a diaper and I'm playing a baby. Like that is so much fun. It's not as much fun, having to send emails and following up with people and making sure everybody's on top of what they need to be doing. But that producer work is also, very important in all of this and very rewarding.
Yeah.
Just maybe not as fun as, being a big, silly, goofy clown guy on stage and having fun with everyone.
I
But
guess you,
yeah,
I guess you could say as a producer and writer, you get to truly be, you get to truly create an entirety, not just like your role, but you get to create the whole thing. And that must be slightly, I think, more rewarding because you get to create an entire concept rather than just the one role. And I can really respect that. That being said, there's one thing that I always divert to, and it's like one of my favorite things to ask people just like yourself, and that's it's about the imposter syndrome, and it's about you as a person. Do you think that you've succeeded in life, or do you think that there's a milestone that you're aiming for? Like, what do you think about yourself?
No.
Is essentially what I want to know. Like, is
Yeah,
there
I
a
don't think.
milestone?
Yeah, so so I'm very familiar with the imposter syndrome. I don't think I have that.
Mm,
Like I feel very confident, like this is what I need to be and should be doing.
yeah,
And very happy that I found that thing, and I found that thing, and I don't I know what I want to be doing, and I know what I need to be doing, and I'm happy that I'm doing it, and I'm committed to doing it. But the second part of that was, do you feel that you've succeeded? Um, and I look back, you gotta, for all the content creators and all the producers out there, you gotta take the accomplishments, you gotta take the wins, you gotta celebrate that stuff.
yeah,
Because you're gonna get a lot of rejections, and you're gonna have some losses and all of that, and you're not going to be able to keep going and stay motivated through that if you're not acknowledging and celebrating your wins. So I have succeeded in some things and done some things I wanted to do, but am I successful yet? No, I'm not. um I want to make movies, and I haven't made a feature film yet. But having said that, I know there are a lot of other creators out there that feel that same way. They're an actor and they want to be in a TV show and they haven't even gotten a TV credit yet. Or, they're a writer and they want to be staffed on a writer's room, but they've only written a couple short films. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there. Um, and I would say, exactly what you're talking about, in that you talk to any of these other creators, any of these other writers, they're in the same position as you. And you don't need to be feeling like an imposter. And the way to help yourself not feel that way is to do the work, to get the training, to get the practice in, to build the skills up. And then you'll know that this is what you belong in and what you're supposed to be doing, and you'll feel more confident in your work. The more practice and the more you put into it. But I think it's definitely tough, because it's hard for some people to say, "Oh yeah, I'm a writer," and they've never been paid before. But what I'll say to all those people listening, because I know there's a lot of them, is if you write every single day and work on your writing every single day, you are a writer. And you just got
yeah.
to keep doing that, and you got to keep putting in the work, and you will get paid. It will happen. So yeah, am I a success yet? No, I'm not, not at all.
So you
I
think
got
there's
a
a
lot of
milestone?
work to do.
You think that's a milestone you want to hit first before you can tell yourself that?
I think there are a few
Yeah,
milestones, there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot I want to do. Like I said, I want to make movies, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
stories I want to tell, and some things that I've written that I'm like, I really want this to be made and to have a conversation about this thing I'm talking about. And that stuff has not, some of those scripts have only been read by a handful of people at this point. So it's
Yeah,
it's hard to say, um, if I do this one thing, I'm going to be a success, because I think
yeah.
that's a whole nother trap, right?
That's a
Because you could
that's for
you
yeah.
could yeah, you could do that one thing, and it isn't really all what you thought it was. So I would avoid that too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think like so I think you are successful between me and you and everyone listening. I think success is very important to measure in your own personal development. And if you're if you're out there making a difference at least for one person, or if you're making a difference for one person being you. So I think that, you started your own things three times at this point, and like they're all there, and people enjoy it. You bring smile to people's lives, and I think that's really important. So I think you're a success, but I
Oh,
know that
thank
but I,
you.
but I acknowledge the fact that there are milestones you would like to hit, and I think that's really good that you're aiming for something. And for everyone listening out there, take something from this. I think this is a really important thing for you to figure out yourself. That being said, this is a cinnamon show, so I will have to ask you to talk just quick pitch, 30 seconds, just a 30-second pitch to everyone out there listening who doesn't know cinnamon. How would you pitch cinnamon?
Great. Well, first of all, thank you. That was very nice. Uh really quick before I pitched Cinnamon, it was really cool at AFM at American Film Market. There were more people talking about the very thing Cinnamon's trying to do.
Oh,
Yeah, so that was cool. And I was able to be like, hey, I'm already on one of these platforms. But yeah, so the really cool thing that Cinnamon's trying to do, right, is and I can redo this if I'm wrong about this. So I'll start over. So the really cool thing that Cinnamon's trying to do is we have a huge problem with the internet and with social media and with the way we're interacting with our entire digital profiles and all of that. And Cinnamon and other companies are trying to fix this huge social dilemma that we're facing right now with advertising. And so basically the idea, right, is that you have a subscription and the money you're putting in for that subscription is being allocated evenly based upon your viewership and time spent on various sites to creators and to different owners to the content that you're viewing. And basically, here in America, right, this problem with the advertising is really, really severe. And we have a really horrible misinformation and disinformation problem going on right now. And so I think, trying to solve this problem of what's going on with advertising in the internet is not only very crucial, but it's something that it needs to happen now, or it really needed to happen a couple years ago. So thank God it's happening now. So yeah, that's basically my pitch for Cinnamon. Is I'm happy to be a creator on there because it's all a part of this conversation of trying to fix, trying to pivot, and trying to change before it's too late with what's going on with the internet and advertising.
awesome. Marc, thank you so much. Thank you so much for, first of all, for all your honesty. Thank you so much for all the insights. I'm certain that people who are listening right now, people who are out there, they need to hear this kind of stuff from people just like you, people who are out there trying to, they're doing it, and you are doing it. So thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had left. Thank you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else who doesn't conform to these 4 categories. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of Creator Stories, where we look into the lives of content creators, the real deal, the real people. My guest today was Marc Rosenzweig from Trifecta Comedy, available on Cinnamon, available on YouTube. Marc, if people wanna follow you, if people wanna watch you, where can they follow you?
Great. So yeah, Trifecta Comedy. We're at Trifecta Comedy on Instagram and Twitter and all of that. Watch our stuff on Cinnamon and YouTube. Zephyr Entertainment, also on YouTube, youtube.com/Zephyr Entertainment. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, and all of that as at Zephyr_Zen. So just to spell Zephyr for everyone, it's ZEPHYR and then _ZEN. So that's us. And then I'm Marc Rosenzweig. I'm sure my name will be on the episode or whatever.
Yeah, maybe,
Hopefully you can find me. Maybe not.
maybe
But
we'll
yeah.
deliberately misspell it, just to mess
Wouldn't
with
be the first time.
Awesome. Well, Marc, you were a fantastic guest. My name was Peter. I was your host today. Thank you, Marc, for coming. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time on Creator Stories on Cinnamon. Bye.